Hey everybody, this is Matt. Welcome back to the Crypto Coffee channel. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make passive income with HEX cryptocurrency and how thousands of people are making tons of money with HEX. You know, if you're an OG, you've probably been doing this for the past 2 years, but if you're new here, you're going to want to realize the true secret to earning money in HEX. So stick around till the end because this is really how you succeed with HEX cryptocurrency, and not a lot of people are really talking about this, but there's a huge opportunity ahead, especially if you get in before the launch of Pulse Chain and you get a duplicate of all your coins, right? So let's talk about the real underlying model of how people are making continuous, what's called perpetual passive income with HEX. And it starts with some foundational principles that basically favor a long time horizon or a high time preference over a short time preference. In other words, it's a long-term investing mentality over a trading mentality. And these are really the only way that you're going to see the mad gains in HEX. And you're finally going to understand why everyone's so excited about it, right? So if you haven't heard of the staking ladder strategy, I'm going to go over it with you right now and really break it down because it's really simple to get the hang of. But once you get the hang of it, you unlock the secret to earning tons of money with HEX, okay? So let's get right into it. Now, what is a staking ladder? Well, basically this mimics a real CD ladder, which is a strategy used in the real world where essentially you don't just stake everything in HEX all in one stake. You don't just lock up all your coins for a single day. You make several stakes along the way, right? So you choose a time horizon of, let's say, 5 years, and you stake at various intervals in multiple time frames. So what this really does is it gives you the flexibility to choose time periods that fit your unique lifestyle wherever you're at in life. Now, this could be months, quarters, years. You can even set stakes to expire on holidays, birthdays, life events. If you're new here, in HEX, you get to choose your own terms in terms of the number of days that you want to lock up your money. And remember, locking up and staking is really just the same thing. So when I say locking or staking, I'm talking about the same thing. Now, I don't ever really recommend going lower than months in terms of your stakes because if you're only staking for a couple of days or even a couple of weeks, you're not going to see the outsized returns that a lot of the OG Hexicans are seeing, right? The real returns come with delayed gratification because not only do you get a crazy amount of compounding interest over time, but you get any price appreciation along the way. So that's why when it comes to staking, personally, I really prefer and recommend months, quarters, years, and you can even have fun with it. And let's say you want to make some stakes expiring on Christmas, every Christmas for the next 10 years, or every one of your kids' birthdays. Or if you're saving up for, a wedding ring or that big vacation or that new car, you can set dates in your mind and actually put your money to work while you're waiting for that date to arrive. So it's really cool. Now, the premise of the staking ladder system is really simple. It's essentially that when you stake, that's your principal balance, right? That's your principal amount. So if I stake 1,000 HEX, my principal is 1,000. And when I unstake my HEX, I'll have all the principal plus some amount of interest, right? And really the concept is so simple. It's just you sell the interest that you made and you restake the principal out into the future again, so that you never really give away your precious HEX because your HEX has the ability to make more money for you. Why would you want to give away what's essentially your money printing machine, right? Now, a staking ladder ensures that on every time interval that you set, let's say it's biannually, so every 6 months, it ensures that you always have some money coming out. So you're always able to scrape the interest off the top, sell the interest, and then restake the principal a long ways away in the future. And we'll talk about why it's good to stake longer and instead of shorter, okay? But again, the profit that you make when your stake is over is not only equal to the principal plus the interest, right? But it's actually equal to any price appreciation in US dollar value along the way. I mean, let's not beat around the bush, guys. The USD price appreciation or GBP or whatever currency is in your jurisdiction is really what we're after here. So yeah, HEX is great. We would love HEX to be mainstream and adopted worldwide. But eventually, if we want to cash out, we need to cash out in our country's currency, right? So the profit that you make is, again, the principal, the interest, and the price appreciation, because as we know, cryptocurrencies are the highest appreciating asset class known to mankind. Not only the highest appreciating asset, but the fastest appreciating asset too. Bitcoin went from a penny to $50,000 in 10 years. You're not going to find returns like that in the traditional system anywhere. And HEX is less than 2 years old right now. So, imagine buying Bitcoin when it was less than 2 years old, right? Anyway, moving forward, like I mentioned earlier, I really prefer and recommend this as a months and years game. Months and years are way better than days and weeks. And that's because in HEX, longer pays better. And when we talk about the longer pays better bonus, that literally means every additional period of time, every additional day that you stake, you're getting a bonus for that, and you're actually getting a higher interest rate for locking in a longer number of days. Now, here's a chart of what it might look like if you're staked out from years 1 to 15. So the timeline on the bottom is years 1 through 15. And let's say you made 15 separate stakes. Those are represented by the purple and pink rectangles, right? The purple and pink bars are, let's say, your even number stake. So let's say that's 1,000 HEX staked out for every year from years 1 through 15. Well, like I mentioned earlier, because longer pays better, which we'll do an example of that in a minute, but because longer pays better, every additional year that you stake, that stake that is staked out for 5 years is making a lot more interest than the stake that's only been staked for 1 year. And that's represented by the green bar. So the green bar can be looked at as your interest on top of your staked principal. So again, the pink and yellow is your principal, the green is your interest. Now you could see as we go way out into the future, we are earning exponentially higher amounts of interest than we were for only the 1 year stake. So our 14-year-old stakes are going to be our real money makers. But if you don't want to wait 14 years, I know I'm not that patient, right? I want money every interval of time. I don't want to just make one long stake and then be waiting 14 years for one giant payday. I want a bunch of smaller paydays along the way that will help me kind of navigate my life and help me out with passive income over the course of my life. And you can keep doing this as long as HEX is alive, which it's designed to last well after we're dead. So let's say you got to the end of year 1, right? You waited your first year and you finally reached your due date on your first stake, and it's time to restake it. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take that green interest bar and we're going to cash it out, right? We're going to sell it on the open market for whatever it's worth at the time in US dollars, and then maybe run it back through Coinbase and get it back into our bank account so we can go do stuff in the real world. You know, but we can buy that car or pay off that mortgage on that house or finally start that business we've always been wanting to start. But we don't want to get rid of our entire stack, because why would you sell an income producing asset, right? HEX has the ability to make more of itself because it inflates to pay stakers. It inflates at a constant fixed rate of 3.69% every year to pay the staking class. So given that mechanism, why would I want to get rid of my principal? Instead, what I'd want to do is launch that principal all the way back out in as long of a stake as I can make. Because remember, those long stakes are what really generates the high interest rates. So what I would do is I would take that principal and I would put it all the way into 15 years from now. That's 5,555 days. That's the maximum length that you can stake anything in HEX. And it's just over 15 years roughly. But the reason that we do 5,555 day stakes is because we all know that those pay the highest interest. But the reason that we don't only do 5,555 stakes is because we all don't want to wait 15 years to realize any gains, right? So once you have this structure set up, you're able to launch it every year into the deep, deep future, because you know that in the near-term time horizon too, you've got more stakes coming out. It's a pretty great system, and you can keep doing this, again, as long as HEX is alive, which is basically as long as Ethereum and as long as the internet are still alive, right? So just short of a meteor hitting the earth, this should be okay. Now, let's go over an example. Let's say you have $5,000 and you want to split that into 5 separate stakes and make a $1,000 stake every year for the next 5 years. At today's prices, that's 6,565 HEX staked out every year for the next 5 years. So we're going to assume a rough payout of 6 HEX per T-share per day. And that's a technical thing that we're going to touch on it in a little bit. I'm going to show you the actual screen, so stick around. But roughly 6 HEX per day is paid out per T-share that you own. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. And it fluctuates day to day. Some days it's 5.8, some days it's 7.0, but it's, let's say on average, for the sake of simplicity, about 6 HEX per day per T-share per stake. Now, what the longer pays better bonus is, the beauty of this bonus is that just like in the real world, let's say you have a 1-year CD in the bank and you have a 5-year CD in the bank. Well, every additional year that you lock up in a CD at the bank, you get 20% more interest. Now, the problem with banks is that the interest rates are pitifully low. They're like less than 2%. They're not even enough to beat inflation. I mean, it's disgusting, really. So in HEX, the interest rates are much more favorable, but we copy the exact formula that works in banks and we apply that to this new crypto product. So every additional year that you stake, you're actually getting 20% more interest, or APY. You're getting a 20% better rate. Let's run through a real world example, okay? So we can go to nomics.com and click on HEX, and we'll get the rough value of what $1,000 would be today. So remember, $1,000 of HEX today would be about 6,876 HEX. Now, 6,876, we'll put that in here, 6,876, and we'll stake that for 1 year, 365 days. So doing the math at 6 HEX per T-share per day, we look over here and we see we're getting 0.449 T-shares right here, 0.449 T-shares times 6 HEX per day times 365. And that's going to be our interest. So let's pull up our handy calculator here, and we'll do 6 HEX per day times 0.449 T-shares times 365 days. That equals 983 HEX. That's going to be our total interest. Now, when we add our principal, right, 6,876, that equals 7,859 HEX. So let's go back and plug that into our converter, shall we? So 7859, that's going to equal $1,142. So essentially you made 14.2% interest because you started with 1,000 and now you have 1,142. So you made $142, 142 over 1,000, that's 14.2% APY in that first year. Now, that's not that much, right? Okay, compared to the traditional system, that's a ton. I mean, good luck finding 14% APY anywhere, right? But in HEX, we want even more. We can do even better. So what I've done is I just took the math that I just showed you and I extrapolated that every year for the next 5 years. So basically what I did was I took the same principle and I did it at 2 years, right? 700 days. And we could see that because longer pays better, our T-share amount goes up. So instead of 0.449, we have 0.517, which when you multiply that times 6 times 700, it ends up being a larger interest rate at the end of the stake. So let's go back and see what that actually looks like. Here we have for stake 1, on year 1, we get a 14.2% total interest return. And then it goes exponentially higher to 33%, 57%, 85%, and even 118% by stake 5, which means on that 5-year stake, you actually doubled your principal and then some. I mean, 100% gain is a double, right? So 118% is more than a double. You're actually ending up with, out of your $1,000 investment for your 5-year stake, you're actually ending up with $2,187 at the end of that stake. And if you add all these up, right, this is over $8,000 by the end of that. Now, why am I showing you all this? Why, $8,000, sure, but we're in crypto. We're in it for the mad gains, right? Well, I'm just showing you this example to indicate that longer pays better in crypto, okay, in HEX. So because longer pays better, you're getting these much higher interest rates the longer you stake. But when you add the total USD, remember, you only had $5,000 in principal. Well, now you're adding 1142 plus 1335 plus 1573, 1853, 2187. When you add these all together, it equals, maybe 8,000 or 9,000. I can't do the math in my head right now, but it's about $8,000 or $9,000. And that's, again, if the price of HEX stayed stable and didn't go up at all. Now, we know that cryptos are the highest appreciating asset, and young cryptos have a much higher potential for price appreciation because there's lower liquidity when they're just starting out. And really, you're still the early adopter. Think about all the people in the world that don't yet know about HEX that will one day. So HEX will eventually have a lot more people on board. And the premise is with equal or increasing demand, you really can't lose in this system. So if the price of HEX stayed absolutely stable, you might get close to doubling your money. And imagine that on top of the price appreciation, which has already gone up, 2,000x, maybe more in the last 2 years alone. It was the highest appreciating asset in the whole year of 2020. It's pretty good. And we're only just getting started, right? So when Pulse Chain launches, I believe that it's going to reignite the HEX ecosystem because it's going to make transactions borderline free and instantaneous. And the user experience in HEX is going to be fixed. So it's going to be exponentially easier to adopt new people and to onboard new people. So that's when the marketing really starts. But that's why I'm making this video now, is so that you get familiar with the staking ladder system. So you can start your staking ladder now before Pulse Chain launches so that when it happens, you can actually get all those stakes copied over onto the Pulse Chain network, and you'll be good to go from the ground floor. You'll be in before the big frenzy of new people wanting to get into Pulse Chain and wanting to get into HEX on Pulse Chain. So hopefully that made sense, guys. This is how people are really making money in crypto. The OGs already know this, but if you're new to HEX, this is really the staking ladder system that you want to get familiar with. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.